Well, hey, everybody. Happy Sunday morning to you. Getting ready to record Mike in the Midwest for this week. So let's get after it. Line my windows up. All right, let's do this. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 240 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find me on the socials at Be Our Guest Mike, but come on over and let's have some fun in the Be Our Guest podcast clubhouse. That's our Discord server where we hang out and we talk Disney mostly, but we talk sports. We have a channel there called Sports Center where we talk all kinds of sports. We've got the baseball season going on right now. We got the NCAA tournament. Anything you want to talk about, we'll be talking about the Masters here shortly. It's fun. Anytime a sporting event's going on, we have high level conversations happening there all the time. So join us over there. We talk life as well in the living room and we just have a good time. So come on over, join us. It's beourguestpodcast.com/clubhouse. You probably know that, but if you're not there, we're waiting for you. I'll give you a personal welcome as soon as you drop in. So we'll be seeing you over there. And by the way, in case you're listening to this one down the road, we're recording this one on Sunday morning, March 30th, 2025. Happy spring to you. Hopefully you're having a great spring season wherever this show finds you down in Texas. If you're Dennis, my good friend who always checks in with his feedback, and I appreciate that so much. Trisha on the road. Passed through St. Louis yesterday, just missed her, but I hate that. But we're catching up in July on the Disney Magic. Can't wait for that. Wherever the show finds you, hope you're having a great weekend. We are here in the Midwest today. Now, I've told you about what's been happening here over the past couple of weekends. We've had some wild storms, and again, this weekend, more storms coming here today, this afternoon. Hopefully not as bad as the last couple of weekends. We're saying hail this time, possibly. They're probably not tornadoes. So the good news is my Jeep is in the garage. So that's good news. So it looks like it's going to move to the south of us this time. So not a huge deal. So good news. And baseball season has started for the St. Louis Cardinals. And baseball in St. Louis is a big deal. If you don't know, outside of where we live in St. Louis, the Cardinals are huge in St. Louis. If you don't know how this kind of works, St. Louis is a baseball town. We have a huge history with our St. Louis Cardinals. They kind of rule the roost where we live. If you don't know, the Yankees obviously have won the most World Series of any team in baseball, little baseball history real quick. But the Cardinals have won the second most World Series of any other team, the most in the National League, and then there's the Dodgers. So we have a long, proud history of St. Louis Cardinals, but the Cardinals have been bad the last couple of years, and our owners are not spending money. We did nothing this offseason. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the team right now. And I'm right with everybody. Like, I'm kind of upset, and I am a diehard Cardinals fan. I mean, I was born in Cardinal gear. I grew up wearing the birds on the bat and the Cardinal hats. I mean, that's part of being a St. Louisan. We're talking Mike in the Midwest here. I'll tell you what, when you are somebody who has, I'm 51 years old. I have grown up in St. Louis. You just are a Cardinals fan when you're from here. It's like Scotty G. He bleeds his Detroit teams. You got to support your hometown teams, and that's what you do. And I'll always be a Cardinals fan. But I think a part of that is that you get upset when your teams when you feel like your teams aren't given 100%. Like, one thing about the Cardinals growing up, I always felt like they were always going after the best players. In this offseason, I felt like we didn't sign any good players and we were getting rid of some good players. And so I know I'm going to turn this into sports, but I will say the season started. We've won our first 2 games. We're 2-0, and I'm excited. Now, in baseball, if you don't know, you play 162 games. So you can't get too excited. It's a long season. We play till the end of September. but I am excited. I mean, optimism reigns. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll see how the game goes this afternoon. Again, it's supposed to rain, storm this afternoon. So we'll see. We're here in St. Louis and we don't have a dome, so it could get rained out. But Cardinals fan, win or lose, at least we have a team. We'll have some games. So I'm just happy. The team is putting the ball in play. We're having fun. So there you go. Mike in the Midwest, Cardinals. At least they're playing some fun baseball. They're throwing strikes. They're hitting the ball. They're not striking out. That's old school baseball. That's what I'm happy about. And after last week's show about how my old baseball fields were sold for $1 and they're going away, that made me extremely sad. I'm still sad about that. I still can't wrap my head around that We Hop baseball fields will be no longer. That Diamond 4, where I played Bantam 2 baseball and pitched this one game that I'll never forget, will be, I don't know, somebody's backyard or, somebody's basement at some point. I can't wrap my head about that. Diamond 3, where when I was umpired, I threw somebody out one time. I can't think about it. It just bothers me. But baseball is kind of in your soul, I think, for most St. Louisans. And it's one of those things too. I don't know if this is how it is with your life. And I talked to my wife about this, and I know that we're all built differently, right? A lot of people are theater people. A lot of people are movies people. And you can only see things from your own perspective, right? I've always been a sports person. And, so my life does revolve around sports. And so every night when we go to dinner, Pam and I talk sports all the time. That's kind of what we talk about. We talk about, in my mood revolves around sports. Like if the Cardinals are playing well, if Mizzou's playing well, if my teams are playing well, I'm usually, for the most part, I'm in a better mood. When my teams play terrible, that does affect my mood. I'm kind of down a little bit sometimes. Sad. And I kind of go to Pam and I've asked her many times. I said, God, I wonder what it would be like to not have any affiliation or not be a sports fan. Cause I know there's tons of people, and I know probably you're listening right now, and I'm dead serious about this. And I want to ask you this, put this in the feedback, because I'm going to knock the sports talk off, because the show is not supposed to be about sports, but I'm dead curious about this. I was asking Pam about this last night as we were having dinner. We went to our favorite diner. And also another thing I want to ask you, do you guys love diners as much as I do? We have this place, and it's about 10 minutes from our house. It's called Gingham's Diner. And I love that name, Gingham's. Gingham sounds like so homey, like a Gingham checkered tablecloth or something. And that's kind of what their logo is, like a gingham kind of print. But it's been there forever. It's open 24 hours. And it's just kind of a greasy spoon, but it's pretty big. It's a big little. Scott's been there with me. A lot of the Shine Goals. I've brought listeners of our show when they've come to St. Louis who've gone to Gingham's, and it's just a 24-hour big mom and pop diner place. This serves breakfast all day, but they got everything. They got chicken and dumplings. They got steaks. They got pot roast. They got everything. Meatloaf, sandwiches. So you can get anything there. But we went there for dinner last night because I wanted breakfast for dinner. I love breakfast for dinner is one of my favorite things. Biscuits and gravy, eggs over easy, sausage links, and a short stack of pancakes. I was ready to hammer something down. And we were talking, and one of the conversations we had last night at dinner was like, what would it be to be somebody who is not worried about sports ever? Because we're going to go home and watch the basketball games, right? We're going to watch Alabama play Duke, and we're going to watch the other game, Florida play Texas Tech. And, we're an SEC family. We want to see the SEC teams win. It didn't really matter to me if they won or not, because Mizzou's out. But I mean, I want to see our conference win. I'm an SEC guy. So we had kind of a rooting interest, but that's kind of, that was going to be our evening, like watching these basketball games. And so we're like, we had this conversation, like, our life has always revolved around sports. Like, okay, we watch Paige's games because she's in sports. So we have an interest in all these Missouri Valley Conference games. And of course, in the fall, the high school football team. And then in the winter, we got the high school basketball. We're always involved in sports. Like every day, there's some kind of sports affiliation with our life. People that don't do sports, I just wonder like how stress-free your life would be, because like in the fall, I'm always worried about how Francis Howell football is doing. Even right now, our baseball team at Francis Hall, we're the number one baseball team in the state of Missouri. So I worry about like that we're going to keep that rating. I want us to do really well. I want us to keep that rating. We played the number one baseball team in the state of Illinois on Friday. And so I'm getting updates on Twitter because I didn't go to the game for the whole game, and I was getting updates. The updates stopped. Well, our AD ended up in the ER halfway through the game and stopped updating the score on Twitter. Well, Mallory was there at the game, and I'm texting Mallory. I'm like, well, what's going on? It says it's 1-0, but I haven't got an update in an hour. Like, is it a long inning? What's happening? She's like, the game's over. We won 7-1. I'm like, well, why was there no updates? I was sweating bullets here. Like, what was happening? She's like, I don't know. Like, we won 7-1. It ended like 2 minutes ago. But find out that, you know, the AD had something, and I haven't heard what happened, but he was in the ER. He stopped updating his score like in the top of the fifth, and it was 1-0. I was like, phew. But we won. But it's like, I don't know. So if you're not a sports fan, how stress-free is life that you don't have to like live and die by your high school team, your college team, your professional teams? But you know, with anything, sports teams bring you joy. I mean, I remember when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, you know, like there's a reel of me on Instagram with Mallory when she was like, you know, in 2019, little, you know, a lot smaller. We're doing the Dance to the Gloria song in our old house before we moved. You know, it was great. It was joyous. And, you know, I've stormed the field 2 times at Mizzou. I had Paige with me one time at the 50, and I had Paige and Mallory with me, and she was little. I said, we're going. Grab Mallory, jump that wall, and we're out on the field with, you know, 30,000 other people acting like crazies running from cops. I mean, so it does bring you joy, but it brings you a lot of heartburn too. Anyway, just wondering about that because Pam and I had that conversation. So how you doing? That was a long open. So that's kind of what's going on around here today. We are going to have a live call-in show tonight, so please do join us for that. We'll be talking Disney. We'll be talking about all the stuff coming to Walt Disney World this summer. How about that? Of course, we got the free dining offer for everybody. We knew that was coming after the Disney Visa free dining offer that came last week. They always open that back up to the general public the next week. But how about those kid zones coming this summer so that kids can have their own little areas back in, a Storybook Circus at Magic Kingdom. And then Goofy's going to take over Communicore at Epcot. Kids can have some extra fun there. And the characters are going to be playing kind of free roaming in those the early entry hours at the parks. That's kind of fun. I mean, it's a good idea because it doesn't really cost Disney anything extra. And there's going to be scheduled character interactions at places like Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, and Wilderness Lodge. Why those 4 resorts? I don't know. I mean, it kind of makes sense for Art and Pop. They're kind of character based. Wilderness Lodge, kind of like, that's an outlier. Maybe they just needed bookings there. I don't know. Caribbean Beach, that one's really high demand. I don't know why they drove people there, because people are booking there a lot with the Skyliner. Because bookings are not soft for Caribbean Beach. That was a kind of an interesting one. Maybe it's just because it's close to the other two and the van will be going by there. I thought logistically it made sense. I don't know. It's interesting, but we'll talk about that tonight. Anything else on your mind? So give me a call. I will need your calls because, again, Scotty G still in Hawaii. Rumor has it he's coming back this week. We shall see. We might give him a holler again on the phone because it's kind of fun. See what he's up to because he is at Alani at this point. I went to the luau yesterday, did a mixology class. You've been keeping up with him on Instagram, living his best life. All right, we're going to try to keep this one not 40 minutes. It's supposed to be a mini podcast. It's supposed to be like a 20-minute show because you guys get 4 other shows on the feed. I'm trying not to kill you with all kinds of, 7 hours of shows a week. I don't want to do that to you. You guys don't need that much, Mike Rallman. I get it. This is just a little bonus, extra content just to check in and say, I appreciate you. I thank you. But I mean, you're getting one of these a week too. So it's a lot. I get it. And I don't want to overdo you guys. All right. So last week we did talk about Field of Dreams going away. And we talked about, how I mentioned how Mallory was going to state with DECA. And it was kind of interesting because her mom and I are both teachers. We know nothing about business. But it is kind of interesting how my career kind of made a 180. As a teacher for 17 years, went to college to become a teacher. That's what I know is education. And now I work basically, as a travel agent in sales and I'm a full-time podcaster. So I'm not using any of my education degree. I have a master's degree in education, plus a lot of other hours beyond the master's degree. That's kind of sitting on a shelf with podcasting, totally self-taught. you got it. There was no classes in podcasting when this came around in the early 2000s. You had to learn how to do all this stuff on your own. You just kind of made it up as you went. With becoming a travel agent, I basically learned that on your own too. You just market yourself. You create, marketing on your own. You try to build your own clientele, and I did it through the podcast. And it's basically just trial and error, and it's salesmanship, I guess. I don't know. So it is super interesting in that when you have kids now in college, like I do, like, Paige went through college. She has her just a couple of master's degrees, and Mallory's getting ready to go to school, and she's trying to decide what she wants to study, looking like business. But I think the most important thing is be flexible, because, Paige has a degree in biochemistry, yet she's working in basketball operations. She's working in sports, kind of like me. I have a degree, but I'm not even using it. Paige has a degree, not using it directly. But I mean, it's good to have the degree, right? I mean, I wouldn't say you don't need to go to college. That's kind of a dangerous thing. But I also think if I have a kid, I wouldn't steer them against going to a trade school to get do something like become a mechanic, or like a salon tech or something like that, and being an entrepreneur, because I can tell you what, like, there's opportunities for everybody who is creative and who just has a good work ethic and will just put their nose to the grindstone and just work hard. It's a weird thing that's, in 1992, when I graduated high school, in 1997, when I graduated college, it was a lot different. I think now, if you're super creative and you'll put your nose to the grindstone and work 60 hours a week and just be willing to outwork everybody else, I think you can succeed without traditional education like we used to have. But again, at the same time, I'm somebody who was an educator. I taught school. So I don't want to say you don't need the college degree. It's good to have that too. I am so torn up on that. I'm still torn up on that. Curious thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. So I like to just talk to you guys. I like to have this conversation. I'm very much open-minded. I love conversations. I love other people's thoughts, because I don't know where I land on that. Because I'm very much, and I've always thought trade schools are a good thing, because my father-in-law, he was a mechanic. He worked for a car dealership, a Chevy dealership, and retired, maybe 10 years ago, and made good money as an auto mechanic. And the thing was, he was so well rounded, he could fix anything. And he was super smart, but he didn't go to college, and didn't need to go to college. He made a good living, raised, he had 4 girls, and had he's made a great living, and just one of the smartest guys I knew in the world. Here's the problem. The world doesn't have many people that can be plumbers anymore, that can be engineers, or mechanics and stuff. We need those people. We need those blue collar people that are super smart at those kind of things at this point in our world. I think, like in the 90s and 2000s, we were steering people away from blue collar jobs. We were getting everybody to be white collar. And now we don't have anybody that knows how to fix these things. I don't know how to. I can't fix anything. Like, my dad didn't want me to do manual labor. He's like, you're not going to do what I did. It broke my back. And he steered me away from anything that was manual labor. Now I can't fix anything. I have to call everybody. So, it's the pendulum changes, I think. Anyway, that was a tangent. So here we go. Dennis said, replying to last week's show down in Texas, I smiled when listening to you talk about Mallory and how you didn't know anything about business. My older son is a junior in college and studying computer science. Whenever he comes home and tells me what he is doing in class, I listen and I hear him say words that I understand, but the way he uses them together might as well be a foreign language. I know some stuff about computers, but I don't know how to code or program. It was weird. It was a weird adjustment, realizing that my kids have expertise in an area I know nearly nothing about. I agree. Because it's all moving so fast, right? And even when I was teaching, and it wasn't that long ago, right? I stopped teaching in 2017 to do this whole thing full time, because my picture popped up the other day on Google Photos. The picture of Pam and I at Las Fuentes the day I walked out of my classroom, and we went to and have margaritas that afternoon. And I was scared. I remember I was so scared that day. I was like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? Because I walked out for good, but it's worked out. But I remember in my last few years of teaching, I was really focused on teaching my gifted kids coding. We did a lot of coding in my classroom on Chromebooks. And I told him, like, if this is a language, because, I was like, I'm going to teach them a language. I'm going to teach them how to code, because if kids can code, this is the future. Like, but here's the thing. And I listen, you guys know that I go on the treadmill every morning. I either run or I walk every single morning for a couple of hours. And I listen to podcasts, obviously, when I'm on the treadmill. That's my jam. And a lot of times they're tech podcasts that I listen to. And one of them is all about AI. And the thing that I'm hearing about AI, and I'm no AI expert at all, but I like to listen to stuff, so I at least kind of get a little knowledge, but I'm not an expert at all. But what I'm hearing is that in the next few years, you won't even need to know how to code. Like, you'll just be able to write a prompt, and for any kind of an app or any kind of a program that you need, if as long as you can write a prompt and describe what you're looking for, AI will be able to write the app for you and get you 95% of the way. Then you kind of just clean it up and finish it up and just boom. And you can have somebody there that can just kind of get it the rest, get it to the finish line. But the code will write it. The AI will write the code as long as you can just prompt it in. That's shocking. I mean, because it wasn't that long ago. We're talking less than like 10 years. And it's moving so fast. And again, it's one of those things where, how do you tell kids, your kids, like, okay, this is what we're going to try to do for your education. When you go to, Mallory's looking at colleges and what she wants to do. How do you decide, like, what's the best route to go? But I guess that's college's job. But I think educational institutions move so slow. They're so stuck in the past. I want her to be on a trajectory to seize the future and to be able to sound like Excess Tech at Magic Kingdom, right? Extraterrestrial encounter. But I just want her to be able to be prepared to be successful in the future. I'm very wanting her to succeed, and I want her to be ready to be job ready. So this is me, but great point, Dennis. You're exactly right. Anyway, today's topic that I had on again came from another topic I wanted to discuss. I listened to a podcast called The Retroist. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but it's a great podcast. If you're like me and you're a nerd that like things of the past, look it up. It's a guy that puts out a show every few weeks, just on retro things. You can get it at theretroist.com or just search The Retroist. And he's really high quality show. And he talked about Chuck E. Cheese this past week and the history of Chuck E. Cheese in about 27. I think the show was like 27 minutes long. I was listening to it on the treadmill this week, and it brought me back to what I wanted to talk about today, which was one of my favorite places to go as a kid. Was not just, and we didn't have Chuck E. Cheese when I was a kid. We had Showbiz Pizza, but it was not just Showbiz Pizza. It was what I called this miracle little, maybe quarter mile part of town, where when we went over here with my mom and my sister, it was like pure joy. So let me tell you what this little strip had. This part of town. It was at the corner of 270 and New Halls Ferry Road. If you don't know, if you're from St. Louis, it was just this little corner. Now, 4 of these 5 things were right on this corner. In this one corner, and I think about this as like a 7 or 8 year old kid in like 1980. We had Showbiz Pizza. We had next door to Showbiz Pizza was Target. Next door to that, well, actually, so Showbiz Pizza was there. Next door to Showbiz, was Children's Palace, which was a toy store that was the same size as, I don't know if you had Children's Palace, but it was the same size as Toys R Us. It was huge, and it was shaped like a castle. Next door to Children's Palace was Target. And then kind of out in front of Showbiz Pizza was Shoney's, the big boy restaurant. And I loved Shoney's as a kid because my grandparents always took me there. And then on the other side of the highway at that intersection was Happy Joe's. So those 4 things, let me just tell you about those. I'll just give you a couple memories. So Showbiz Pizza, if you don't know, if you're listening from somewhere you didn't have a Showbiz was just kind of like Chuck E. Cheese. But if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like an arcade pizza joint. And it had audio animatronics. Now, Showbiz was the place that had a Rockafire Explosion, which was like this big, he kind of looked like, I guess he was like an ape or something, like a gorilla. And his backing band, they would play on a stage. They play music, they play musical instruments like a keyboard, and there's a drummer. And you would go back in there and you'd watch them play music. And when you usually went there for like a birthday party as a kid or something, and it's like, be like 10 or 12 of your buds, everybody would get tokens. You go out there and play video games, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Galaga, Defender, whatever. You got as many tokens. Then they bring out the piping hot pizza. Man, the pizza was good. I just remember like sausage pizza, pepperoni pizza, cheese pizza. It was, and they'd have pitchers of soda. For some reason, the soda tastes better in the pitchers. And it was just like the whole experience of it. Like the place smelled like pizza. It also smelled like smoke because I remember as a kid, you could smoke in there. The parents could, not kids couldn't. The parents could. They served beer, as I recall, in Showbiz Pizza. So the parents would hang out there and drink beer. And it was one of those things like, it was like visceral because like arcades of the past, the sounds, like all the video games were like super loud and you heard all the sounds because you're chonk, 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 chonk of the Pac-Man and jumping of Donkey Kong. And it was just, all the sounds blending together were like a joyous medley of sounds as a kid. It was just like almost like a drug, like you just wanted more of it. And then call you back. You'd have your pizza, you'd have your cake, you get a little sugar high, you get a few more tokens, you go out there. And I mean, you had that freedom to just run loose and play all the games that you love. Because again, you couldn't go home and play games like this at home. Like this was your one shot to play like these color, awesome graphics, amazing video games. You didn't have at home. At least I didn't have them. And nobody had that quality of games at home. So it was amazing to go to Showbiz. It was just, the pizza was great. The soda was great. The cake was great. The show. I mean, I didn't get to go to Walt Disney World. You didn't have audio animatronics like that. I mean, Rockfly Explosion was great. And, the video games were the stars. You could not get enough tokens. You'd search the ground to see if you could find tokens people dropped. I mean, and I mentioned Target. You're probably like, who cares going to Target? But going to Target, was a big deal as a kid. Remember, we didn't have as much to do as kids. Like you didn't have an iPad to play with or a cell phone or anything like that. I mean, we rode bikes. We played outside a ton. But when, you got to go to Target once every couple of weeks with my mom or my sister, we had a Granada car I think it was like a Ford Granada. Then we had a Pinto. We had cheap cars. But we'd, load up and go over there with my mom. Like the places we go, we had three places. We go to Target. We had a Venture. I don't know if you knew what a Venture was, just like a Target, but I think it was cheaper. We had a Kmart. We go to those three places, but the Target was the nicest of the three, I think. And we go there, and every once in a while, if we were good, we'd be able to get like an action figure, like a ball or something, some little cheap trinket toy. But even if you didn't get something, you got to go in the toy aisle, the toy section. So it was just fun to go to Target. And Target, I think, and I think Venture too, when you went in, they had like a snack bar. So you get like popcorn and a soda. And while you're going around the store, even if you had to sit in the cart or just like, I would stand on the end of the cart and like my mom would push, but like I'd be, stand on the very end of the cart holding on and, eating your popcorn and drinking your soda as you're going around the store. But you would, at least you got to go to the toy department and see like what was going on with like Star Wars figures and, the sports toys and all that. So again, you might think, oh, going to Target, not a big deal. It was back then because it got you out of the house and it was fun to go there. Now, the Showbiz was number one, but number two was going to Children's Palace. I mean, just think of it, the commercials for like where a kid can be a kid for Toys R Us. We didn't have a Toys R Us around us. Children's Palace was hit. I mean, this place was huge and it had two like, I don't know, like turrets at each, one on each end. And I mean, it was just, you walked in and I mean, I don't know. I guess we took this for granted as kids because obviously we don't have these kind of places anymore. But I mean, you walked in and there was wall to wall toys. I mean, this place was gigantic. Not kidding. I mean, it was just huge. And, you had a gigantic aisle of just board games. You had just a gigantic aisle of video games. You had a gigantic aisle of bikes. You had a whole aisle of, outdoor gear, sports gear. I mean, and you could just stay in there for hours and go up and down. You get on a bike and you ride it up and down, the aisle. You just be, I was a computer nerd, so I check out all the Commodore 64 software, all the Atari games, all the board games. And, if you're lucky, you got to bring something home. But I mean, it was just like, you just look around and see everything, all the Lego. And it was just one of those things. It was just, as a kid, it was like being in Santa's workshop. Children's Palace was amazing because it wasn't just being in there. It was how many copies of everything they had. It wasn't like one or two Monopoly games. They'd have like 50 copies of Monopoly, 50 copies of Life. And it was just like, it was like Santa's workshop. Like nowadays, places don't have that kind of stock, and I don't even know how that worked back then. Maybe it was just how things were. They just stocked up and they had those kind of things, but it was just joyous. I mean, you went in there, it was great. So yeah, Children's Palace was a joy to go in there. It was, and I mean, just it seemed like everybody was happy in there. It was just awesome. And of course, up by the checkouts, there's always like little candy and little knickknacks to get you to buy checkout, Hubba Bubba and stuff. Oh, so fun. And finally, Shoney's. Real quick, Shoney's. Obviously, sometimes we go there and grab something to eat. Shoney's was great. It had a little breakfast bar. You could get that sometimes with all the food on the, a little buffet and breakfast foods. But Shoney's also, when I was a kid, had spaghetti. For some reason, I love my spaghetti at Shoney's. And Shoney's is still around, I think, in the South. We don't have any Shoney's here, but my grandparents would always take us there. My grandpa and grandma loved taking us to eat, and we'd go to Shoney's. Finally, though, Happy Joe's. Happy Joe's is a pizza place that I had a few birthday parties when I was real little on that corner, and there's still one by us. It's not as much fun, but they had a few video games like skee ball. But when I was little, they had like little penny candy and stuff like that. And when you had your birthday party there, I think a clown came out. They don't do this anymore, but I think a clown came out and they put like a siren light on. They'd honk a horn and like sing to you. And again, they brought out the pizzas with the pitchers of soda, and everybody would make a big deal. But the pizza's really good at Happy Joe's. Happy Joe's came out with the very first taco pizza, and we still go to the Happy Joe's by us to have the taco pizza. I put it on Instagram every time I get it. It is stinking good. Now, when I was a kid, I probably didn't get taco pizza. I probably just got like sausage or cheese. But Happy Joe's was just kind of a fun place. But that strip, that like 1/2 mile with that many riches, Happy Joe's, Shoney's, Children's Palace, Showbiz Pizza, and Target. As a kid, Target rich. So did you have a place like that as a child? Let me know. What was your golden triangle of childhood of your town? I got to hear about it because I know you had some place like that in town that you loved. All right. Hopefully it's brought back some good memories for you. That's always the point of this. It's not serious. It's just to put a smile on your face and bring back some good memories. So let me know, and hopefully you can give me a call tonight at the live call-in show. Hope you're having a great weekend. Thanks for being a friend. I appreciate you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.